our expectation from them going forward is that all those responsible from the highest degree, highest level to the lowest level will be highlighted, will be brought to justice, and will get the punishment they deserve.
That is Turkish President Erdogan talking. Molly Hunter is ABC News correspondent in Istanbul, Turkey. Been following the happenings of what happened to the Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. Molly Hunter, thanks for joining us. What is the latest?
McGraw, good morning. I wish I had more information for you. We just heard Turkish President Erdogan speak for the first time on the record in the last 3 weeks. And I think if he had given this speech 2.5 weeks ago, our jaws would be on the ground, because he laid out the evidence clearly, consistently, and very soberly, comprehensively. Really, it was an impressive speech, but we knew most of it. So he didn't bring out any kind of crazy audio tapes or videotapes that have been rumored. He basically methodically walked through the Turkish evidence that it was a premeditated, a pre-planned, vicious, violent murder of Jamal Khashoggi inside the Saudi consulate. He pointed the finger directly at the Saudis. But McGraw, he didn't point the finger at Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He didn't even mention his name, actually. So he spoke directly to King Salman, his father, and he spoke respectfully. He paid deference, and he punted a few questions his way, like, why did it take the Saudis so long to come up with an answer? Why did it take the Saudis so long to admit that they killed him? And then where's the body, and who ordered this? And he didn't assume that King Salman had, but he certainly assumed that King Salman might know.
Yesterday we talked about this video. Anything more on this video?
So what's interesting is we went back to our Saudi contacts on that video, and the story changed again, unbelievably. So the Saudis say, yes, we did have a body double, but we sent him there because originally we were going to take Jamal Khashoggi to a safe house for 2 days, for 48 hours, if he didn't agree to go back to Saudi Arabia. So we were going to release the body double and sneak Jamal Khashoggi back to Saudi Arabia. That was the plan, which, McGraw, at this point, I think we can very, very kind of confidently say is ludicrous and has no credulity at this point. They've changed their story so many times that me and all the journalists here were just incensed.
Molly Hunter, how much of what President Trump is saying about this is getting back to Istanbul, Turkey?
All of it, I'm sure. But what's interesting is that it's also getting back to Riyadh. So we kind of, for a couple of weeks, as we've talked about, President Trump said, look, we've got to wait for the Saudis. We're not there yet. This is still kind of in the early days of an investigation. And over the weekend, he called the Washington Post and said, look, obviously there's been deception and there's been lies. That was a tone change. The next day, the Saudis put out their foreign minister, Al-Jaber, who speaks fluent English, and they put him on Fox News. And where do you put anyone who you want to make sure the president sees or hears? You put him on Fox News. And he got on there and talked about the rogue elements, that this was a rogue operation, this was not from the top, which President Trump himself had purported just a couple of days earlier. McGraw, stick with me. Then the next day, the White House put out Jared Kushner to kind of tone down, I think, President Trump's skepticism a little bit. President Trump kept up with his skepticism, but Jared Kushner came out and said, look, we're still in a fact-finding mission. I've advised Mohammed bin Salman to be very transparent, and I think that probably felt good to the Saudis' ears.
What does it mean that the CIA director is headed to Turkey?
So she is here. She's on the ground. We know she's having some meetings, and we know she'll definitely ask the Turks, show me the goods. Show me that audio that you said you've had. Show me the video you say you have. Show me all the evidence that you have not announced to the world. The other thing that's at play, of course, as we've talked about, is the reason the Turks aren't coming out with everything is that they've got the leverage. There's something going on in the back rooms right now between the Saudis, the Americans, and the Turks, and there's a deal being negotiated that we are not aware of. McGraw, this is no longer about the tragic loss of life. This is no longer, I think, about just finding the truth. This is a much bigger game of political football. And for us, sitting out here on the outside, no matter how many times we ask our Turkish sources, our American sources, our Saudi sources, we don't know what that negotiation is about. So I think we're hoping at least the next big announcement might be actually what the Turks are getting out of this.
Yeah, that's a great question, Molly, and I know you're short on time, but what's the relationship between the Turks and the Saudis before all of this?
The Turks don't love the Saudis, if I had to summarize briefly, and specifically the Turkish veteran leader, President Erdogan, does not love Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Here's this 33-year-old hotshot who's coming, swinging to the region. Erdogan is definitely one of those people that just never really warmed to him. With that said, he pays deference to his father. He speaks about his father with reverence, with respect, because for Erdogan, King Salman is still the custodian of, the two holiest mosques. He is still, Saudi Arabia is still the place where Mecca is. And even though Erdogan and King Salman and Turkey and Saudi Arabia more generally have different visions of what the Islamic world should look like, and those are competing visions, there's still some deference. But what's interesting, McGraw, is the last couple of years, as these alliances have really put Turkey and Saudi Arabia on opposite sides, Turkish President Erdogan has not been on the winning side. And for the first time today, the world was watching him. The world was listening to him. And he knows he has the upper hand. So it's a really interesting moment to watch Erdogan.
Molly Hunter, you're the best. Be safe in Istanbul, Turkey. ABC News correspondent Molly Hunter. Molly, thanks.
Thanks.